Hello and welcome to the Everything Football channel, the channel that, you guessed it, talks about everything related to football. This channel will consist of weekly podcasts posted on both YouTube and the podcast app, and different smaller videos posted purely on YouTube. This week I will be discussing the January transfer window, which has just come to the end, specifically in the Premier League, and who had the best and worst transfer window of the 20 clubs in the top English top flight. Let's get straight into it by discussing who's had the best transfer window in the Premier League. Now I've gone for a rather what may be seen as slightly controversial choice with my choice here, and I've gone with Chelsea. Chelsea have only bought two players in, but they're what I believe to be two players that are necessary for their push to improve as a club and get back to being number one in England as they want to be, and just going to improve them in the future, especially the second one I'm going to talk about, which I think is very important. First of all, Chelsea have bought in Gonzalo Higuain on a loan from Juventus with a fee of £8 million for the loan and an option to extend this loan for a year for £18 million or an option to buy at £31.3 million. Now this loan lasts until the end of the season and should find a good talisman to lead Mauricio Sarri's team forward throughout the rest of the season in order to secure top four. This season, the Argentinian has netted 6 goals in 15 starts in the Serie A, which gives him around about 214 minutes per goal, which may seem pretty bleak in comparison to many other strikers in the English top flight, but in actuality for Chelsea this works out quite well, as their former striker Morata, who has gone on loan to Atletico Madrid, had only a goal every 943 minutes, which is incredibly poor for a striker. So hopefully Higuain will be able to start firing, especially under Maurizio Sarri, who he has enjoyed previous stints under when Sarri was Napoli boss. Overall this season, Higuain has netted 10 goals and picked up 3 assists across all competitions, and so far in the Premier League he's picked up 2 and 2, not scoring in his first league game where Chelsea slumped to a 4-0 loss against Bournemouth, but picking up 2 a brace against Huddersfield where Chelsea romped to a 5-0 victory. Something that Chelsea fans can look forward to with the addition of Gonzalo Higuain is the partnership he's going to pick up with Hazard. Maurizio Sarri himself thinks that this partnership is going to become very deadly, and it very well looks like it, with Hazard also picking up 2 goals against Huddersfield. Gonzalo Higuain's arrival means that Hazard will be able to go back to be played on the left wing, which he much prefers to the false 9 that he was being played under before, and Higuain, with the balls in from Hazard and Hazard being able to be a creator again, is sure to score a lot more goals. Higuain will enjoy what will probably seem like a lot more positive attention from the press, especially coming off the back of Morata, who hasn't managed to find the net in the league for Chelsea since November and has been a very poor striker. However, Higuain could be slightly worried with the supposed curse of the number 9 shirt which he is currently wearing, with many of the last number 9s at Chelsea turning out to be complete flops, such as Shevchenko, Torres and Morata himself. As I said earlier, Higuain has enjoyed a very lucrative spell under Mauricio Sarri when they were together in Serie A. Of course, Sarri was the manager of Napoli, and Higuain played for Napoli before he moved to Juventus. Higuain, whilst playing for Sarri at Napoli, scored 40 goals in 45, and it worked out at about, in all competitions, a goal every 88 minutes, which is an incredible ratio for a striker, and if he can pick it up here at Chelsea, he'll be certain to secure them top 4 football and Champions League football, which is very important for Chelsea at this point, and Maurizio Sarri, the boss, to make sure his job is secure at the end of the season. Secondly, Chelsea have bought in Christian Pulisic from Borussia Dortmund on a fee of €64 million. They've signed him in January, however Christian Pulisic has gone back out on loan to Dortmund for the rest of the season. Pulisic has enjoyed a good stint at Dortmund, playing 83 games scoring 10 and getting 16 assists in the Bundesliga. And in the Champions League, getting 20 games and 5 goal contributions in those 20 games. Pulisic, at only 20 years old, is already in the US men's national team and is the forefront of that, being the focal point of that team, having played 23 goals and netting 9 games so far for the national team. It's quite a savvy pickup, is Pulisic actually, as with Hazard looking likely to leave for Real Madrid possibly at the end of the season, or with the ageing Pedro and Willian looking needing for replacement. Pulisic would slot in well, being able to play either right wing or left wing, however mainly he is a right winger. Something to note, however, is that Pulisic has been largely unfavoured under Lucien Favre, the manager of Dortmund this season, having only picked up around about 13 starts for the Bundesliga side. However, this could come due to the explosion of Jadon Sancho, the English winger who signed from Manchester City this season, into the main team of Dortmund, and Pulisic having to sit back onto the bench because of this. Pulisic gives something that Chelsea need, which is a good chance creator, having got 16 assists in his 83 games. It's something Chelsea need right now, with a lot of the ball not being able to be progressed very well, and Pulisic will be able to progress the ball a lot better. With Pulisic only being 20 years old, means that he's one for the future, and it's something that Chelsea need to start investing in, is the future. Chelsea are a very short-term team, with managers typically looking at getting 3 seasons, and with instant success being needed at the club, it's never really a sign of developing youngsters as a whole, and they need a lot of older, more developed talent usually at Chelsea. However, bringing in the 20-year-old Christian Pulisic might show a change, and it's something that I believe that is going to be good for Chelsea, building for this future and eventually being able to be maybe a dominant team like Manchester City are right now. Now that we've discussed which Premier League side had the best transfer window, it's time to move on to which Premier League side had the worst transfer window. Now I'm going to start off with 2 honourable mentions, because I believe there are these 2 honourable mentions who could come close or could actually be considered to have the worst transfer window, but I've gone for a different team. Number 1 is Burnley. They only signed Peter Crouch, who probably will work well in Sean Dyche's system, a tall target man in the box who probably at his age of 38 can come off the bench, but it's not really enough for Burnley, who have lacked quite a few goals this season, having only netted 26 times in 25 games and conceded 46 times, which is very poor off this after last season's defensively salute Burnley. So yeah, they could have done with quite a bit more this transfer window. And Huddersfield, the team bottom of the Premier League, 13 points off safety, Huddersfield right now, which is not good at all. They've only scored 13 goals in 25 games and conceded 46, and really with the only major signing being Jason Puncheon on loan from Crystal Palace, it's definitely not enough to keep them up in the Premier League. There's not enough goal scorers in this team, and they're definitely going down to the Championship next season. However, this might be clever, as they're conserving money and not spending a load, and not really bringing anyone in who might want to leave when they get relegated, so that they can make the investments when they're back in the Championship and attempt to bounce back straight away. But instead, what I've gone with as the team who's had the worst transfer window in the Premier League is actually the team above them, who are Fulham. Fulham currently sit 7 points off safety after 25 games in 19th place, having scored 25, that's 1 goal per game, and conceded 55, the worst record in the league, which is very poor. Fulham needed to bring in a defender, and what they did do was bring in Havard Nordveit, a centre-back / CDM who played on loan from Hoffenheim for a fee of 700k. He's an ex-Arsenal and West Ham player, and he started 16 games in the 2016-2017 season for West Ham before moving to Hoffenheim the season after. Now, this might seem as a savvy piece of business with Fulham needing to have brought in a centre-back or someone who can play centre-back to shore up that defence, which has conceded 55 goals this season. However, when you look into the stats of Nordveit, they're not actually that good, with him only picking up 1 tackle per game and 0.6 interceptions per game, which simply aren't really that good enough for a centre-back. You need someone who's going to be picking up a lot more tackles, especially if they're going to be looking to stay in the league. However, Nordveit's experience might come in handy, having played 3 Champions League games this season for Hoffenheim. So, a bit of experience at the back line for Fulham could be good. However, he's only started 8 Bundesliga games, which again can't be seen as that great. You want someone who's been playing regularly, and Nordveit is not that. I believe that in actuality it would have been a lot better to pick up Gary Cahill, someone who's lived in the country, who's living in the country right now, living in London, used to his surroundings, and would be a lot more of a leader, a level-headed person, and just be able to bring the team forward quite a bit more. Secondly, Fulham bought in Ryan Babel for €2 million from Besiktas. Now, it's a bit of a risky move, with Babel only being 32 years old, which is quite old for a player to be bought in. Babel has netted 29 and 89 games for Besiktas across his entire stint there and got 12 assists. However, this season, worryingly, he's only picked up 4 goals in 12 games and 1 assist, so that's 1 goal every 3 games, which just simply isn't good enough. Fulham have only got 1 goal per game so far, and they need a lot more goals if they're going to be able to stay up, especially with the amount they're conceding. And with Babel only getting 1 goal per 3 games, it's just not going to be enough. They needed to bring in someone who was going to score a lot more, and Babel is not that. However, there is a bit of hope for the Dutchman, having already picked up 2 assists from 3 games. So hopefully if we can continue this form, then there is a small bit of hope for Fulham this season. Finally is probably the worst transfer that Fulham picked up all season, which was Lazar Markovic from Liverpool. He was released on a free from Liverpool and signed for Fulham. However, pretty worryingly for the Cottagers, Markovic has not got more than 2 league goals since the 2013-2014 season, which is incredibly poor. He's only played 2 times this season, netting once in the Premier League 2, which just isn't even the proper Premier League. And last season he played 8 times for Anderlecht, scoring 1 and assisting 1. Last time he played in the Premier League for Hull 2 seasons ago, he only picked up 2 goals and no assists in 12 games, which, quite like Babel, for a team who's not scoring enough, it's just simply his stats are not good enough to keep Fulham in the Premier League, and it's just such an uninspiring signing. Markovic is not going to be good enough for the Premier League ever. We've seen this with Liverpool, we've seen this with Hull, we've seen this with a multitude of other clubs in different divisions. He's just simply not good enough, and he's going to be taking up high wages at Fulham. And for a club who needs to stay up, who needs the goals to stay up and make that 7-point deficit and go out of the relegation zone, Markovic just isn't the player to do that. It's pretty disappointing for Fulham, who spent over £100 million, who outspent Arsenal this summer, that they're in such a situation, and that in January, when they need to invest to stay up, they've brought in these 3 pretty uninspiring players. When you look at the stats, you might look and say they brought in a centre-back, they brought in some attacking players, but overall none of them have the stats to help Fulham stay up. So overall, Fulham have had the worst transfer window in the Premier League. That's all for today in this first video, the review of the January transfer window this season. I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next video. Be sure to comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.